Thank you for joining us today. We are here to take a closer look at Joe Biden's statement in his first press conference in over 90 days. And of course, he comes out the gate talking about the future of taxes. I'd like to invite in our guest speaker, Brian Walker, the president of the AFI Group and the financial advisor, entrepreneur, and father of two. Welcome, Brian, today.
Thanks, Robert.
Yeah, Brian, so let's take a closer look at the elephant in the room. Yesterday, Biden came out and gave his first press conference in the last 90 days. And not sure if he meant to lay this out there in the midst of trying to raise $2 million yesterday, but he said emphatically that he would eliminate or reduce more than $2 trillion of Trump's tax cuts in regards to capital gains and also step up cost basis. Can you give us a better idea of what he's talking about and how that may affect our investors?
Yeah, so this is really interesting because I mean, he flat out laid it out there what he's going to do. So my question for you that are listening to this is, what are you going to do? You know, and I'll give a quick analogy. You're driving down the street, you see a signal light in front of you, the light turns yellow. What are you going to do? Are you going to prepare for the red light, or are you just going to floor it and hope you time it correctly and make it through the intersection safe before that light turns red? And right now we are seeing a yellow light. And my question for you is, are you going to be prepared to slow down and stop and make some changes? So this article headline is very interesting. Are you going to put the headline on the screen?
I'm gonna superimpose it.
Okay. This headline is very interesting. So as Biden says, he's going to close this tax law that Trump signed into law and reduce some of the $2 trillion in so-called loopholes. Now, what does this mean for us? We need to understand how our accounts are taxed, and we need to understand how our accounts are passed on to our beneficiaries. So first and foremost, let's talk about our taxable accounts. So these are accounts such as savings accounts, CDs, stocks, bonds, mutual funds. Maybe you have a brokerage account with, a Charles Schwab, or our securities advisor, Eddie Schuh. Maybe you have an account with him. Now, as those accounts grow, in some cases, you pay tax on the growth year over year. So if you had earnings this year, next year, when you file your taxes, you'll pay tax on those earnings. Some of those accounts grow in a manner where they are taxed under long-term capital gains. So as time goes on, as let's just use a stock, for example, that stock continues to grow year over year. Well, as it's growing, you're not paying tax on that growth. But when you decide to sell that stock, that's when you pay the tax bill, and that would be long-term capital gains. So if you pass and those accounts get passed on to your beneficiary, well, in that case, there's what's called a step up in the cost basis. And so all of those potential capital gains taxes that would be paid get eliminated because the cost basis steps up to the current value. So this also applies to real estate, and I'll give an example with real estate. So let's say you bought your house 30, 40 years ago, and you paid maybe $100,000 for your house, and now your house is worth $1 million. So your capital gain in that situation, if you were to decide to sell your house, is $900,000. So you would pay long-term capital gains tax on $900,000. Now, if you were to pass away and then that house got passed on to your children, let's say, well, they get an automatic step up in cost basis. So if that house is worth $1 million, the cost basis will get jumped up from 100,000 all the way up to $1 million. So if your children decide to sell that house, then there is zero capital gain on the sale of that house because they got that step up in cost basis. So you can see how important that is for your beneficiaries to have that step up in cost basis. Now, what Biden is saying is we're going to eliminate that so we can then, as the federal government, collect taxes on all of those long-term gains. So this is where I go back to the light analogy. We have been warned, so now what can we do about it? Well, we can start putting money in tax-free accounts and eliminating all of this uncertainty. So right now, let's just say you've saved for all of your life in a tax-deferred account. Well, you can do what's called Roth conversions. So what that does is that takes money from your tax-deferred account, it transfers it to a tax-free account called a Roth IRA, and you pay the tax along the way. But remember, we're at historically low tax rates. But once that money gets into the Roth IRA, now all of the gains are tax-free. And they're free of any type of tax, federal tax, state tax, and capital gains tax. So you truly get to earn money and never pay a dime of tax on those earnings. And when you take the money out, it comes out tax-free as well. So it doesn't matter what tax rates are at the time because they do not affect the Roth IRA. And if you pass and the money gets passed on to a non-spouse beneficiary, well, that money goes to them tax-free as well. They still have to follow that 10-year rule where they have to distribute the money within 10 years, but all of those distributions are tax-free. So this is not smoke and mirrors. This is not anything new. This is an account that has been there for decades, and it is a true tax-free account. So this is one way you can isolate yourself from all of these changes that Joe Biden is talking about implementing. Now, there's another true tax-free account, and that's the life insurance retirement plan. So this is a true tax-free account. It grows tax-free. The money comes out tax-free, just like the IRA, the Roth IRA, exactly the same. And then when you pass, there is a death benefit that gets passed on tax-free to your beneficiary. So it is another vehicle to use in concert with your Roth IRA. Because if you have millions of dollars that you've saved up in your tax-deferred bucket, well, you want to have multiple vehicles to transfer that tax-deferred money into tax-free. So you have the Roth IRA, you have the LIRP, and these are really the only way to isolate yourself from decisions that people like Joe Biden are saying they're going to make if they get elected.
Yeah, Brian, and appreciate, I know these are complicated concepts, not as simple as they sound, because we need to understand what amounts can be transferred in a tax efficient way in order for it to really be profitable and truly protect people from rising taxes. Where can people go to learn more about this strategy in a more comprehensive manner?
Well, this is what we do as a firm. We want to educate people on these circumstances. So you can go to our website. We have blog posts, we have videos. You can go on YouTube, search us on YouTube. We also do webinars where we talk about taxes in retirement. We talk about Social Security, estate planning. So there are a lot of resources that we make available to you for free to educate yourself on this and then make those right decisions.
So we'll make sure we add links to all of those things you just mentioned in the notes below. Feel free to join us on any of the events or videos on our YouTube channel. But Brian, I appreciate you being here today. I know you have to run, and I'm glad you gave us a few minutes of your time this morning.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having me, and great to see y'all.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope that you learned something new. And if you did, like, comment, and share. If you'd like to learn more, make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you'll get notifications of the latest videos. And you can check out our complimentary resources below for more complimentary education.